What's up, everyone? Welcome to Hollywood Unveiled, where we pull back the curtain on the Hollywood entertainment industry and get to know the people and stories behind the magic. I'm Jake.
And I'm Logan.
And Logan, it's pronounced Frankenstein.
Frankenstein. Jake, I love this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like, this is, I think, my favorite Mel Brooks. I was kind of looking over my ranking of him the other day, and it's like, yeah, this is at the top of the list.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely up there for me. A lot of great childhood memories of this movie, you know?
Yeah.
So. Also, as a kid, asking, why is this movie black and white?
Yes.
As a kid, you know.
There was actually a narrative function for it that we're going to talk about. But yeah, no, this movie is just, it's a ton of fun. I like to joke that I want to see Mel Brooks come out of retirement to do one more movie about like the Wolfman. Okay. Because he's done Frankenstein. He's done Dracula. I want one more of his Universal Monster trilogy.
Okay.
So I just want one more movie in there for him.
And I think it'd be pronounced Wolfman.
Yeah. Exactly. Where it's like, you know, something like that, just to get Mel doing one more fun thing. Cause man, I miss Mel. Like I love his stuff.
Well, he's still alive. He's still doing it as of now, at least. So
he's still rocking. But he hasn't made a movie since Dracula Dead and Loving It. And it's like
not directing. Yeah.
Like at least for like feature films. Like he's appeared in a couple others, but he has not directed any others since then. Well, it's like, man, like I love the guy. I want to see him come back and do some more stuff.
Yeah. I think he's enjoying retirement right now. So
yeah, he probably is. And again, that's one of those where it's like, I would love to see him come back, but I'm not going to be heartbroken if he never does.
Right. Absolutely. So what do we got, Logan? What do we got with Young Frankenstein?
Well, yes, we are talking about Young Frankenstein from 1974. This film was released by 20th Century Fox. It stars Gene Wilder as Dr. Frederick Frankenstein, Marty Feldman as Igor, Cloris Leachman as Frau Blucher, Terry Garr as Inga, Madeline Kahn as Elizabeth, Kenneth Mars as Inspector Kemp, and Peter Boyle as the Monster. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a very fun cast that is kind of put together, and the original idea for it was Wilder.
It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, so he was working with Mel on Blazing Saddles, and while they were on set, apparently Gene had this legal pad, and he was just kind of jotting down ideas and kind of putting stuff together and doing all of that. And one of those days, he had kind of come up to Mel, and he told him, he's like, "So I've got an idea for another Frankenstein." And Brooks responds with, "Oh, not another. We've had the son of, the cousin of, the brother-in-law. We don't need another Frankenstein." But Wilder's idea was that it was the grandson who thinks the family's nuts, and he's just ashamed of the wackos. And Brooks was like, well, "That's funny." And Wilder had always said it was kind of a dream for him to write a movie that Brooks would direct. And Brooks then looks at him and goes, "Well, how much money you got?" And Wilder is like, "I got $57. And Brooks says, "I'll take it." So he basically bought the script from Wilder from there for $57, and was like, "We'll make this movie." I think that this mixed with Blazing Saddles did lead to a very long, lifelong friendship with Wilder and Brooks, but it also leads to one of the only real fights they ever had.
Legendary fight.
Yes. And Wilder is on record being like, this is the only fight that Mel and I ever really had, but it was a big one. And it all revolved around putting on the Ritz. So Wilder put the scene in, and what he would kind of do is he would write bits of it and then kind of give it off to Mel and kind of have Mel read and do that kind of stuff. And when Mel read it, he told Wilder he didn't think the scene worked. The quote is, he says, "Are you crazy? It's frivolous." And Wilder threw a fit. And they went on for about 20 minutes, just back and forth arguing about this scene, about why it worked and why it should be in the movie and all of this kind of until Wilder is apparently red in the face. And then Mel suddenly stops and goes, "Okay, it's in." And Wilder just looks at him and is like, "Why would you put me through all this?" And Brooks says, "Well, because I wasn't sure if it was right or not. And if you didn't argue, I knew it would be wrong." But if you argued for it, I knew it would be right to have the scene in.
That's an approach.
Yeah.
From what I've heard, at least they had a big fight. Mel storms off, calls him about 20 minutes later, says, you really shouldn't let crazy people into your apartment and he tells him, it's not safe for you to let these people in your apartment. They could hurt you or whatever. And referring to himself. And Gene Wilder said later that was his form of apologizing and the closest thing he ever got to an apology too. So,
well, there you go. So unlike other movies that we've covered with this kind of, episode, this doesn't really have alternate casting. For example, Igor was written for Marty Feldman. Like Gene wrote it specifically for him. He had seen his act. He was like, that's the only dude I want playing this part. And Feldman came aboard. Mm-hmm. The only thing that I found that was originally different was two of the cast members were originally, one was originally hired to play somebody else, and the other was auditioning for the other character. So in the original kind of casting breakdown, Madeline Kahn was going to be playing Inga, and Terry Garr was auditioning for Elizabeth. And after they finished Garr's audition for Elizabeth, Brooks asked her to come again, but audition for the part of Inga. And he's like, but can you play it with a wild German accent? So she comes in again. She auditions for Inga. She plays the accent as broad as she can, and they loved it. So they switched the casting. So they'd already had like, oh yeah, well, Madeline Kahn, we want her. She'll play Inga. And so they're like, no. So they moved Terry Garr over, and then we're like, we still want Madeline. All right, we'll put her as Elizabeth. We'll see how that goes. And when it came to hiring Kenneth Mars as Inspector Kemp, Brooks pitched him a weird costume choice. And this is how he kind of knew he had gotten the job. Brooks would look at him and said, well, let me ask you this. If you're wearing an eye patch and you've got a monocle on top of the eye patch, is that too much? Kenneth Brooks goes, well, of course not. And Brooks says, good, you're hired.
Well, know what kind of movie you're making, first of all.
Yes. And that is one of those where it's like watching the movie. It is a silly little joke but still plays.
Oh, yeah.
On a brief tangent, speaking to watching the movie, this is one of those movies that was really hard to find, or would be if you were relying solely on streaming. I could not find it anywhere on any streaming service, not even to buy in iTunes or Vudu or whatever the heck. This is where I have to say thank goodness for my physical media collection. I've got a collection of over 1,000 DVDs, and one of them was Young Frankenstein. So luckily I was able to pop this sucker in and rewatch it before we recorded today.
Yeah, physical media for the win, man.
Yeah, like I think legit, even to myself, when I flipped open my binder and saw it, I was like, physical media. Like I was like I was.
And you got it in a binder too.
Ghost Protocol. Like I was so happy.
Yeah. I'm ashamed to say I have not bought anything physical in a long time. So I guess I mean,
that's the thing.
Kind of the way it has been. Yeah.
I haven't either. But this is one of those where it's like my big collection started with all physical media. And I am really happy that I still have a lot of these movies that haven't made the jump to digital as of yet. All right. So jumping back to Young Frankenstein. So Columbia Pictures were the original financiers for the picture. Like they were original producers. They were going to kind of do the thing, but they really objected to the movie being shot in black and white. According to Mel Brooks, they even tried to trick him into filming in color. According to him, they said, okay, we'll make it in black and white, but on color stock so that we can show it in Peru, which just got color. And Mel's like, no, because you'll just screw me. You'll say this, and then in order to save the company, you'll risk a lawsuit and you'll print everything in color. It's going to be on black and white, thick film. Mm-hmm. So Brooks left him and went over to 20th Century Fox, who were more than happy to shoot it in black and white. They totally understood, yeah, this is a parody of the Karloff, the Chaney, like the old school Frankensteins. Mm-hmm. You need that to be in black and white. Talk about like, know the movie you're making, right? Mm-hmm.
And as a kid, I actually thought this movie was a lot older than it actually was because of this alone. And going back to the monocle thing, as a kid, I was a kid. I didn't like the patch and the monocle. Yeah. Okay. That's what he looks like. Yeah.
It doesn't really look like he's wearing a monocle over an eye patch.
Doesn't look like anything to me.
No. Now
Westworld reference.
Apparently, while they were filming, they would actually have to get through about 15 takes before they would get to anything usable, because Gene Wilder could not stop giggling throughout most of the movie.
Well, it's good to know that everybody was having a good time.
Yes. and it is really kind of funny. Just, because like the one scene that apparently killed him was Cloris Leachman walking up the stairs with her unlit candles, turning and going, "Stay close to the candles. The staircase can be treacherous." And for whatever reason, that sentence being broken in half, the staircase can be killed him every time. There's so many cuts on the blooper reel of him just giggling. And it's weird because watching the scene now, like, knowing that he couldn't stop laughing, I was watching him the entirety of that scene. And as soon as she says it and he looks away, he kind of has that look around the room of like, "Oh, wow, this lady's really weird." Like, and I'm like, that's the look you were trying to play? Like, it's a very odd scene to kind of see that come from. So when they were shooting Putting on the Ritz, as the story goes, Brooks told the background performers that if they laughed, they would be arrested. Because he wanted the scene played so straight. Like, he wanted the whole point to be like, "No, you are terrified of this. This is not funny to you, no matter how wild it goes."
Yeah, you've got a living corpse on stage dancing and singing.
Yes.
Attempting.
And this town has a bad history with it. Like, this is not funny to you, no matter. The creature could bend over and fart and you are horrified. It is not funny at all. But like, what I think is really kind of fun with this, especially with the cast, kind of goes with this story. So Brooks said that one of his favorite times, or some of his favorite times during the filming of the movie, was lunch. Just because it was this wild, hilarious cast all just together sharing fun stories. That's actually where, Madeline Kahn shared the story about how she got into the industry because she wanted to be an opera singer. And then someone told her, maybe try that, and put her in a comedic role. And then she liked that a lot. So she jumped into being a comedian. So just hearing all these different stories, he was like, "This is my favorite time working on this movie." It's just during lunch, hearing all of these stories.
It's certainly one of my favorite times on set is lunch.
Hey,
craft services, good. Sometimes you get some real bangers there, man.
Yeah.
And MASH.
Jake.
Logan.
Where are you ingesting this podcast?
Mostly on YouTube.
Well, if you're watching on YouTube, it's the thing everyone hates us saying, but it's like, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe so you can let us know how we're doing. That's the thing, though. Like, we genuinely really love to kind of hear, how we're doing. So, sound off in the comments. And if you're listening to it as a podcast, leave us a review, subscribe. That goes really far. And sound off. Like, if there's a movie that you are convinced, this changed cinema, let us know. Are you Miyazaki did wonders and y'all need to talk about one of his? Great. Throw it in there. We're more than happy to talk about whatever movie you want.
And hey, if you just like seeing me do very poorly with our game time, then subscribe. You'll see a lot more.
That too. Yeah. Actually, just subscribe for that. That's going to be fun.
Oh, yeah. You can just yell at me. This is the answer.
The more you subscribe, the sooner we will do an episode that is all game time.
Yeah.
Just to drive him nuts.
Oh, yeah. Well, too late.
Come on in. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. Now, Brooks also directed this one in a very different way. He told the cast he was going to direct it like a play. So he actually pulled him aside and say, "Okay, play it like a play. I'm not going to chop it up. I'm not going to say cut. You're going to talk for 10 minutes and I'm not going to interfere. So just keep going." That's how they got scenes when they're sitting at the table and Inga looks at Frederick and she's like, "Well, you barely touched your food." And he "There, now I've touched it. Happy?" That was because they were just play the scene.
Yeah.
Just play it. And also in that scene when Igor says, "This reminds me of what my father used to say in times like these." And he just kind of paused and just waited. And then after a couple beats, Wilder went, "Well, what did he say?" And it was the first time they had done the take, and Feldman probably stopped. "Well, no, he's not supposed to ask me that." I don't know what he said. What? They kind of threw him for a little bit.
It's called Yes and.
Exactly, yeah. But it makes it even funnier when you watch the movie and see, it's that story of like, what are you doing in the bathroom day and night? Why don't you get out of there? Give somebody else a chance. Like it's, there's a lot of really funny stuff in there. So something else that is kind of fun. This movie also reused props from the original 1931 Frankenstein lab.
That's right.
So they got to use some of that kind of old school vibe with the movie as well.
Mm-hmm. So something kind of cool about that, the prop master who he found all these props from, Ken Strickfaden. I apologize if I butchered his name, but he made the props and sets for the original Frankenstein in 1931.
Oh, he had made them.
He had made them. And Mel Brooks, wanting it to be really authentic, sought him out. And I guess he wasn't credited properly in the original Frankenstein. So then he got him, he had all these props in his garage or in storage somewhere. And so he actually credited him in the films, especially because he wasn't credited originally, as the story goes.
I like that. I think that's really sweet. That's a beautiful story. Another beautiful story, actually, with this movie is that Peter Boyle met his wife, Lorraine Alterman Boyle, on the set of this movie.
Let me guess. Did she know he was the one the moment he goes, boo?
Quite possibly. So she was writing for Rolling Stone at the time. Mm-hmm. And she had been sent to set to write a report on the movie. So at the very least, she did meet him when he was decked out like the monster. Mm-hmm. So, at least a little bit. Now, one of the fun cameos in this movie is Gene Hackman.
Yes.
Right? Like, because Hackman is in dramas. Mm-hmm. And I've seen one movie that is marketed as a comedy with him. It's called Loose Cannons. Mm. I think it's just a really unfunny drama. Because it's Gene Hackman and Dan Aykroyd. It's a weird mix.
Dan Aykroyd was supposed to be the comedy in that.
He was, and he wasn't. So Hackman came on board because he actually played tennis with Gene Wilder. And he had mentioned kind of wanting to work on a comedy and looked at Wilder at some point and said, so is there a part for me in that crazy movie you're working on? When Wilder mentioned the Blind Hermit, he was like, oh, that sounds perfect. And with Hackman coming on, he actually improvised one of the most iconic bits of the character on the first take, and they didn't ever get it again.
Oh.
And it is his last line as the creature leaves. So as the creature, you're like, wait, I was going to make espresso. The espresso line was completely improvised by Hackman. Mm-hmm. And the reason the camera fades to black so fast is because the cast and crew started cracking up and they had to cut as soon as they possibly could. And that's one of those where it's like, all right, you dip your toe into comedy, you do a great bit, and you're out. Which
is also what makes this movie one of my favorite movies, because it really has my favorite pair of jeans in it.
God damn it. God damn it, Jake. I appreciate the artistry, but God damn it.
You're welcome.
Oh, man. So one of the other funny stories I read about the set of this is that Marty Feldman ad-libbed the hump moving. So they were filming one day and he just kind of kept moving it between takes just to mess with people. But no one caught on for a couple days. So when he finally revealed it, he thought it was a practical joke, but Brooks thought it was so funny that he worked it into the script in multiple places, where it is now a canon thing where it's like, yep, the hump moves. Like we're making a point of it. And we're just going to have some fun with it.
What hump?
Exactly. Yes. Now, on the note of Igor, after they finished filming and they're doing the editing, the one bit that Brooks was very close to cutting was the walk this way bit. Where Igor kind of goes down the stairs and then hands the cane back to Frederick. It's like, yeah, no, the same way. Like Brooks thought it was too corny, but it rocks the test audiences. They thought that shit was hysterical. And it is. So
do you know who else it rocked?
Oh, Jake, is this going to be another bad joke?
No, actually, if this is a trivia that I'm getting early, I would love it. But Aerosmith. Not kidding. While Aerosmith was recording an album, they took a break to go see a movie. That movie was Young Frankenstein. And Steven Tyler loved that joke so much, he wrote an entire song, Walk This Way. Not joking, he attributes it to Young Frankenstein.
That is a fun fact. Such a fun fact that I now must delete it from the game time questions.
I'll take that one. I was holding back, but I saw a segue there. I was like, I had to take it.
No, you're good. I'll give you the point. Now, this movie was pretty successful. It was made on a budget of $2.78 million, and it went on to make 86.2. That's damn good.
That's a good return.
Yes. And it was nominated for a couple of awards.
Hey.
So the Golden Globes for the acting categories. Cloris Leachman was nominated for Best Actress, and Madeline Kahn was nominated for Best Supporting Actress. Here's the weird part, though. Madeline Kahn has more screen time in the movie than Cloris Leachman.
Well, the Golden Globes have always been a little funny like that.
This is true. And it was nominated for 2 Oscars, Best Sound and Best Adapted Screenplay. And I do think this is kind of fun. Mel Brooks calls it the best movie he's ever made.
It's hard to argue.
But he is quick to clarify, he does not think it's his funniest. He thinks his funniest is Blazing Saddles. But he does think that this is his best movie.
It's hard to argue.
Yeah. It's also hard to argue that you stumbled right into game time, you son of a bitch.
At least I got one ahead of time.
You got one ahead of time. But I had 5 questions. Now I have 4 questions. But I think these are going to be interesting. Yes, they are all tied to Young Frankenstein.
Wait, I didn't say anything. I wasn't going to say anything.
I mean, let me just adjust my glasses here. But yes. So let us take a look at what we have for game time. So our first question, this movie holds a distinction that makes it completely unique in Mel Brooks's directing filmography. What is that distinction?
Is it that it's in black and white?
No, it is that Mel does not appear on screen in it.
However,
well, he does have those voice cameos, but
however, his hands are the ones pouring the soup for the blind man.
Well, yes, but but that doesn't count because he's another character. But no, actually, it was one of the stipulations for them making this movie. Gene Wilder flat out said he did not want Mel Brooks in it.
I didn't know this story. Yes, this is a great story. Yeah.
Because he's like, Mel, I love you, but whenever you're in stuff, there's always this kind of wink to the fourth wall. And I don't want the fourth wall to break on this movie. Like, I want people to just be in there with the ridiculousn's and have fun with it. Now, he does, like I said, he does do a few voice cameos. He is the Howl of the Werewolf. And in the flashback, when they find the laboratory, he is the voice of Victor Frankenstein. But Mel intentionally said he plays it as characters. He doesn't play them for the jokes. So like when he's voicing Victor, he's like, cool, I am just an actor who is playing Victor Frankenstein. I'm not playing him for comedy. I'm just playing the character. So
you're not playing Mel Brooks playing him.
Exactly. So he is very toned back just to make sure that it is, not overpowering on a kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah. And now, if you didn't know already, he was Gene Hackman's hands pouring the soup.
Yes, I did not know that. And though you try to use that to barter for points, you don't get them. You are at a 1 of 2. But hey, you got 3 other questions, one of which, there will be a kind of multiple point option for you in there.
Okay.
All right. So question number 2.
Yes.
This movie came out the same year as Blazing Saddles. Which one made more at the box office?
I'm going to say this one.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Jake. It was Blazing Saddles.
I was going to say just purely because of the budget versus profit, but maybe I'm even wrong there. I don't know what the budget was. Blazing Saddles.
Well, going off of final box office numbers, Young Frankenstein, like I said, made 86.2 million, whereas Blazing Saddles made 119.6.
All right, fair. Yeah.
Now, this is one that is kind of based on a story. Now, Mel Brooks says he knew a scene was a hit when he could look out at the crew and see a sea of blank. What is that blank? What did he see a sea of that told him the scene they were filming was a hit?
Say laughter or red faces.
You're not far off, but it was what they were using to hide that laughter and red faces, white handkerchiefs. They apparently gave white handkerchiefs to every member of the crew to hide their face, hide their laughter, and all of that. So there's a quote where Mel Brooks said, "I knew a scene was a hit when I could look out and see a sea of white handkerchiefs."
Had not heard this one, but that's a good one. I like it.
And we have arrived at the last question of Game Time. Jake, I'll be honest, looking at your score, not doing too great.
I'm not even mad about it this time around, though. So, hey.
So this one, I'm going to give you the basic, and then there will be an option for a bonus point, which
a follow-up
I'll figure out if it's maybe multiple points.
Yeah.
So Mel Brooks set a record in this year in 1974, and he is the last director to do this for the last 47 years. What he has done here has not been done again since. What is that occurrence?
You got me, Logan. No surprise there.
All right. So so Mel Brooks was the last filmmaker to have 2 films finish in the top 5 highest grossing films of the year.
Oh, okay.
So he had 2 movies in the top 5 for the highest grossing films of 1974.
Okay.
Here's the bonus points. There's 3 other movies that are in the top 5. Tell me any of them.
Any of them. You got me, Logan. I'm ashamed to admit I do not have your encyclopedic knowledge.
Throw out a guess, because like I said, you're going to get a clue on the last guess. It is an iconic disaster movie.
Earthquake?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Earthquake is at number 5 on this list.
I'll take it.
One of them. I'm going to give you 2 points for getting it.
Hey.
Because I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting that. Also, that's also not the one I was expecting you to say. So that's why I was shocked. So the top 5 highest grossing films of 1974. You had Earthquake. Again, the one I'm shocked you got, because I hadn't heard of that one. Then Young Frankenstein at number 4. The Trial of Billy Jack at
Never even heard of it.
Yeah. The one I thought you were going to get for the iconic disaster movie, The Towering Inferno.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And Blazing
If
Saddles.
I had another guess at disaster movies, that actually would have been it. You know why? Because of just, as we've spoken about in a previous podcast, the Universal Backlot Tour.
Exactly. Yes.
I've seen him talk about both of those movies. So.
Yes. And at number 1, Blazing Saddles. So Blazing Saddles was the highest grossing film of 1974. But Jake, you did fine for Game Time. You got 3 out of 5.
Sure. That's
take it. That's more than half. That's a passing grade.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm giving it to you. Yeah.
That's how I got out of high school, with bonus points.
Oh, man. Don't say that. If your teachers ever listen, they're going to hate you.
They're going to agree.
Yeah, well, you know. But no, this is a very fun movie. I think also a fun fact, and I almost put this in Game Time, but I knew I didn't want you to once again shout malarkey that it was not connected well enough. So Young Frankenstein inspired a Broadway musical, and the original cast is hilarious because it shares someone who would then go on to play another iconic character in a Broadway musical based on a movie. And this is Roger Bart. I know him from like the TV show of Series of Unfortunate Events. He's in the movie of The Producers. Okay. But he's also like the singing voice for Teenage Hercules. So he's the one who sings He's the one who sings Go the Distance. But on Broadway, he plays Frederick. Like in the original Broadway run, and he has now most recently played Doc Brown in the original Broadway run of Back to the Future. Oh, that actor. Yes. That guy. One of those that guys. Yeah. Yes. Oh, yeah. I love him. He's great. So yeah,
Oddly
that was
enough,
one where
I
it's
think I
like,
first
love
saw
that
him on
dude.
Desperate Housewives. I think that was one of the first things
Yeah,
I
and
saw
I
him
think
in.
I think he's in one of the Hostel sequels.
Yeah, he's great in that too.
Yeah.
Hostel 2. Yeah.
But no, this is a very fun movie. I love a lot of Mel Brooks' stuff, and I'm kind of glad this is the first of his that we will be able to talk about.
Oh yeah, and talk about many more, I'm sure. All right, Logan. Well, with that said, where can the people find you?
This Dark Castle, for one. That's where I'm staying.
Because it's definitely not a green screen. Because it's
No,
black and white. There's
definitely
no green
not.
screen,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Do not look behind the curtain.
Yes. No, I'm findable. You can find me on Twitter at FilmGuy1989, Twitter at FilmGuy89, Instagram and Threads at FilmGuy1989. And I've been having a ton of fun on this app, Letterboxd, where you can find me at FilmGuy1989. I'm trying to convince Jake to get onto it.
I just learned about this. I'm going to sign up for sure.
Oh.
And it's a great place to kind of see what people think about movies and everything. So if anybody's watching this and enjoying what we do here, I bet Logan's got. I've seen a crazy amount of reviews there talking about movies. So I think you're going to love that.
Oh yeah, a very very weird mix on a day-to-day basis.
As it should
But how
be.
about you, Jake? Where can they find you?
Oh, you can find me at VFX2Go on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. One of these days I'll post a Threads. I'll get to it. And soon enough I'll be on Letterboxd once I sign up for it. I'll tell you all about it. But you can also find me on my website, vfx2go.com. And Logan,
Jake?
did you know we have a website?
I was made aware of this.
And we're on the socials. We are at HollywoodUnveiled.com, and you can find us on the socials at Hollywood Unveiled Podcast. And Logan, is pronounced Frankenstein.
It's Frankenstein, yes.